like, this is happening. Just be prepared that somebody might be coming after you. So that's kind of sets up the movie. But the movie starts. It opens up on like there's a bunch of dudes on a garbage truck. They're coming over a hill and they end up at this guy's house. This guy's in his house and he's just like, I didn't know the garbage day it was today. So he's like he's dragging his garbage cans out to the garbage truck, which garbage guys wouldn't wait. If they don't see any garbage cans, they just move on.
They're gonna drive off.
First clue.
Yeah. He should have known something was off. But so he brings his cans out, and then immediately there's like guys on the back of the truck. They say there's some one-liner that they give him, but they just shoot him right down in the street. Cut to the next scene. One of the guys that shot down this guy, he's what's his name? He's like the bald black guy. He's in a ton of different movies. He plays a lot of like bad guys.
It's Bill Duke. He's actually in Predator.
Oh yeah, Bill Duke. Okay.
Yeah, he's the guy with the minigun that shaves his face.
Yeah. Bill Duke, he goes to a car dealership. And there's like a guy that's like showing him around this Cadillac, and he's just like, oh, it's pretty nice. Like, why don't you like check it out? Bill Duke gets into the car, and then he starts it up, and the guy's like, yeah, like start it up, see how it sounds. And then Bill Duke is like, you know what the best part about this car is? The price. And then just hits this guy, and then drives the car out of the dealer. He's inside the building. He just drives, and then he just leaves. Like, he's not chased or anything like that. No. He kills a man, but he just drives away with the car. Which the car is just stolen for the rest of the movie.
Gassed up car on the.
It's got plates too later.
Yeah.
It has plates.
Yeah, he doesn't have to worry about that. And then he goes to the docks, and then you see a big brawny guy with a mustache who like. They look at each other, and the guy with the mustache he gets on, who's Bennett. We'll get to that later, but like Bennett gets on to this ship, and they go out to sea a little bit, and then Bill Duke just blows it up. All right. Anyway, cut to one of the greatest intros to any character that's ever been in a movie. We have John Matrix. John Matrix is the first thing that shows up for Arnold Schwarzenegger is just his biceps.
Picking up a tree.
Yeah, he's just walking with like a giant log over his shoulder, just very casually. He's walking down, and then he takes it down and he's like chopping wood, and then he sees a reflection of somebody who's sneaking up on him, and he like, turns around and it's his daughter, played by Alyssa Milano. And then they just have the best summer day of all time because he's such a good dad. They go get ice cream, you know, and then they swim, and then he's like teaching her how to do martial arts, and at one point they're feeding a deer, which is like
what was that?
He's like he's holding his hand out as the deer is eating out of his hand. It's great. He's
giant smiles on his face.
Yeah,
big old teeth are showing.
He's the best dad. Like, it's amazing. So, and then it cuts to, you know, after their grand old day, they're winding down with some sandwiches, and
he takes a bite of, because she's made the sandwiches. He takes a bite of the sandwich and he says, "What's in this?" And she's like, "You don't want to know."
And that's it.
I'm just like, what?
And he's just like,
put in that sandwich,
and then continues eating it. But no, well, there's a line before that where he's reading a magazine. He's just like, "What did they call him, Girl George?" Cut down on all the confusion. Which is just like, it's you know, it's kind of insensitive, but what are you gonna do? So they're sitting there eating, and then Arnold, Matrix hears like a helicopter coming over the horizon, and it lands, and General Kirby gets out, and he's just like, and he's like outside Matrix house, and he's just like, Matrix, it's General Kirby, and Matrix just comes up behind him and pulls the gun out of his holster. So, and then that's when Kirby tells him, he's like, you know, your men are being killed. Like, just be wary. We're giving you a couple of soldiers to help protect you. And he's just like, are they good? And Kirby's like, they're the best, which they're not. You see 2 minutes later, because Kirby gets into the helicopter, flies away, and not even 5 seconds after Kirby leaves, like Arnold looking into the bush, and then he's like, oh, and he grabs his daughter, and then he runs her away, and just immediately somebody pops out of the bushes and shoots both of the guys. Just like, all right, they're done, they're out of the movie. And so Arnold this is one of my favorite lines because it's so dumb. But he's like one of the guys that's there to protect him gets shot down, but he crawls his way into the house, and Matrix is like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like, I'll be fine. The enemy are downwind, so they have the advantage. And he's like, "What, you think I can smell these guys coming?" And Arnold's like, "I did." He smelled them coming. He's the greatest he's the greatest hero of all time. So Arnold, he tells his little girl to go hide, but this is one weird thing. He tells her to go hide, and then he goes to like a lockbox where he finds like all of his guns. So he gets guns, but I'm like, why didn't he just be like, "Hey, come with me, let's go, and I'm gonna lock you into this safe or whatever, and I'll take out these guys and I'll come back for you." Whatever. So yeah, but instead he's like, "Go hide." So the little girl goes upstairs, hides under the bed. Arnold jumps. He gets to the second floor of his house, and then he finds the dead body of the other soldier that was just on. That was like, "I'll be all right," but no, he's out of the movie, so it doesn't matter. He walks in, and there's this guy sitting in a chair, and he's like, "Oh, we've got your daughter." And he's like, "You need to do what we're gonna tell you, or else she's gonna be gone." Yeah. He's like, "You're gonna do it, right?" And Arnold's just like, "Wrong," and then just shoots him in the head.
just kills him.
My favorite thing about this movie is how there is a plot, but Matrix just has his own plot going on. Every single time he's told to do something, he's just like, no, and just does his own thing, and it totally works out. It's amazing. So Arnold, he runs outside. He finds out that his truck has been tampered with. It's been like ripped apart or whatever. So instead of what he does is he puts his car into neutral, and then he sees they live on a mountain. So he sees that the cars are like driving down the mountain, and he just pushes his car to the side of the mountain and then gets in and then just rides the car down the mountain.
Yeah, it's jumping everywhere because of how steep it is.
Yeah, he's just flying all over the place. They probably needed like 4 trucks to actually get this scene done because they're all just destroyed. So he eventually like crashes into one of the cars, but he gets taken. There's just too many men for him to really handle, and he handles a lot of them before he eventually gets taken down. And then Bennett shows up, and he just he has got a tranquilizer gun, and he's like, "Oh, I wish that this was a real gun," or something like that. And then he shoots Arnold. Arnold passes out, and then he wakes up, and that's when we're given our plot. We got Dan Hedaya, which, mind you, okay, Dan Hedaya, he's playing like a
South American ex-dictator.
Yeah, ex-dictator. Which Dan Hedaya, he's Jewish.
Yeah, we pointed that out too. We're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Did they darken him up for this?
Yeah. No, he's kind of a tan guy. Maybe they did a little bit. But yeah, he's got this really southern South America like Spanish accent.
Yeah.
Like, "You will do what you want.
You will do what I will tell you."
Yeah. But they tell him they're like, the dictator or not the dictator, the person in power that you helped get elected in this country, well, now you need to kill him.
Yeah.
Which is just there's this whole other story that's happening before this that we just needed 3 lines explaining what it is. But he's like, "You need to go kill him, or we're gonna kill your daughter." And they bring the daughter out, and she's all tied up and stuff. They put a knife to her neck, and he's just like, "Jenny." He's like, "Okay, well, you're gonna Dan Hedaya. His name is Arias. They're like, Arias is like, you're gonna fly to this country and you're gonna kill these people or kill this guy, and so I can take over." And so they go to the airport, and he's like, "Okay, well, this guy's Sully, and this other guy, I don't remember what his name is. It doesn't really matter." So these 2 guys are gonna help you get on the plane, or they're gonna make sure you get on the plane, and this guy's gonna go with you. So Sully is David Patrick Kelly, who is the guy from the Warriors who's clinking the bottles together.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Warriors!"
Yeah, he's the villain of the movie.
Yeah, he's also in Twin Peaks and stuff like that. Sully's a shitbag. He's tells Matrix, he's just he puts couple bucks in his pocket, and he's just like, "Get yourself a beer, it'll give us more time to have fun with your daughter." Just like, oof, yeah. And then him and the other guy kind of laugh at each other. So Arnold gets on the plane, not with Sully but the other guy, and the other guy is It seems like he was like a black guy. Okay, he's got a black guy and he's got like a beach shirt on with like a white blazer over top of it, which is just like at the time that probably was like a normal like outfit for like where they're at, Southern California or whatever. But then on top of that, he's got like this safari hat on, which is just like a weird thing. Like he just showed up on set and he's like, "No, I'm wearing this."
Well, they put that on him because they all work for a South American dictator, so you gotta think of like.
I think specifically the reason why he's wearing that hat is because of this next part.
Yes. I know what you mean.
So they get on the plane and they're sitting. They don't even take off yet, and Arnold is sitting next to this guy, and there's this funny line where this the hostess, or not the hostess, the air flight attendant. Yeah, the flight attendant is just like, any carry-on luggage, and Arnold's like, just him. Yeah, and the guy's just like, one more word out of you and I'm gonna nail your lips shut. Which is like, don't talk shit to this guy. Like, look at him and look at you, all right? Like, he will punch you to death with one punch. Which happens.
And then he does.
And then he does.
Yeah, at the first opportunity, Arnold, he elbows him in the face and then just snaps his neck. And then the hat, he just takes the hat, puts it over his face, and puts a blanket on him.
I was like, that's exactly why.
And then, and then he tells the stewardess, he's like, no, not really tired. No, yeah, he says,
he's dead.
Please don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired.
He's dead tired.
Dude, flawless writing. Flawless. So the plane takes off. He's just like, how long is it going to be until we reach Valverde? I think that's the name of the place that they're supposed to be going to. And she's like, we're going to be landing in exactly 11 hours. He's like, okay. So they start taking off, and immediately he gets up and he goes down to the what's it called, the
luggage
cargo
area.
yeah,
the
cargo bay, and he gets down to the plane wheels, and he is like, he tears his way down where he's just like wrapped himself around the wheels. Mind you, this plane's going, I don't know, 300 miles an hour.
300.
Planes go fast. That's the thing. This plane's got to go real fast to get up in the air. So he takes off. They're probably about 300 feet in the air or something like that, going at 500 miles an hour, 300 miles an hour, and he just the first possible swamp or like pond that he's over, he just lets go, despite the fact that he's going forward at 300 miles an hour. He just drops straight down and just lands. There's no recovery period.
He lands like a kid coming down a water slide, with like legs straight out.
Yeah, just like arms out. Yeah, and he just lands, and immediately no recovery period. But this isn't the first time no recovery period happens. But he just lands in the swamp, immediately gets out, sets his watch for 11 hours, and just starts running.
It was at that point I was like, well, I love this movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be the best movie ever. Yeah, he gets to the runway, and then he's like timing out because he sees a truck driving by, and he like jumps on the truck, but then he rides it for like 3 seconds and then jumps back off because he wanted to cover like 25 feet of ground faster. He's making time. What are you gonna say? And so cut into the airport, and there's a woman, and she's at a payphone, and she's talking to some guy that she doesn't really seem like she's that into. She's like, yeah, like maybe we can go on a date or whatever. She's talking on the phone, and Sully's like listening in on her, and Sully is like he starts hitting on her in a very creepy way.
Yeah,
like he's just a gross dude. Like, what can I say? He's just like, oh, I bet you don't pick up a lot of dudes at the airport. Like, what do you say? Like, we blah blah blah. And she's like, no. So she walks off, and she goes into the parking garage. And Sully follows her to the parking garage, and there's just this terrible moment where he's talking to her, and he's like, hey, wait up, like, and she's like, will you please leave me alone? And he's just like, fucking whore, and then just walks away like this psychopath. Like, obviously he's a
slimy dude.
Yeah, he's just so slimy. He's just an absolute crazy person. But that brings us to our next amazing moment, where she's like about to get into her car, and she, like, Arnold comes up behind her and like puts his hand around her mouth like to stop her from screaming, and he's like, you know, don't scream. He's just like, just get into the car. So she gets into the car, and he's like, I need you to follow that person. She's like, I knew you were gonna say that. And so he does this weird thing where he, instead of just approaching him in the parking garage, he takes another like 35 seconds to tear out the front passenger seat of her car, because so he can sit lower. So like that's his idea, is that he's tearing out the passenger seat so he can sit lower in the seat and Sully won't see him. But the problem with that is it doesn't matter at all, because he does that and he's sitting super low in the seat. Okay. Next scene, when they pull out of the parking garage, he's just sitting normally. He's a foot above her. It doesn't matter. Like, it had no bearing on anything whatsoever.
Yeah, I did wonder why. I guess it was to hide, but still, I was like, why did it probably would hide.
Yeah, he could have just ducked down a little bit, but no, he had to tear the seat out, which was really weird.
Just to show off his raw power.
Okay,
he terrifies her.
Phenomenal cosmic power.
That's why at one point I was like, this movie should just be called "Look How Strong Arnold Schwarzenegger Is," because everything is like a testament to just how tough he is. So they're following him, and they eventually follow him to a mall. Where he's making some like deal under the table where he's trying to get money or whatever. They don't really go into like why he's there, why he's making the deal. It's just a set piece. And Arnold tells her like, hey, like you need to go talk to Sully and try to get him to come over here and tell him that you're like into him and stuff like that. And she's just like, okay. And so she goes over to this restaurant while Arnold is watching her from like across the way, and it's just this terribly. Like, he's not sneaky at all.
A pillar that he's way bigger than.
Yeah, just this giant man, and his pecs are just like sticking out a foot beyond the pillar. And like, you know, there's like cops. Like she tells cops that like, hey, this guy has like kidnapped me, and Arnold is just like sticking his head out, and it's super obvious, and they're just like,
I think we need backup.
Yeah, like. Yeah, they were like, all right, we got this guy that we need to take care of, and yeah, the security goes over there, and they're like, we need backup, because he's just this massive 6'3", like 250 pounds of muscle dude, and Arnold, you know, fights his way through these guys, doesn't kill anybody, but you know, he fights his way through, and then he goes over to Sully, who Sully sees him, and he's like, oh no. Or he's like, Matrix. So he runs over to a telephone booth. Yeah. He runs over to a telephone booth and he starts trying to dial, and Matrix is like running at him. And Sully's like, he shoots one shot. He only shoots one shot and it misses. And then instead of Arnold pulling him out,
he proceeds to rocket back and forth.
He takes the entire phone booth and just suplexes it over his head. Just like, look how strong Arnold Schwarzenegger is. Like, oh my god, he's so strong. And just, you know, it just demolishes Sully. But he ends up getting a couple of security officers ends up jumping on Arnold, and then and it's just that one thing where he just lifts his arms. Yeah, and then they all just fly off of him like it's a grenade explosion happening in this movie. So Sully runs off. He gets back into his car, and there's a big car chase scene happening. This is the second instance of immediate recovery. Because like they're chasing him, and then Sully, they get into a car accident. Sully like flips his car or whatever, and then but they are going like 65 miles an hour and just crash head on
into a pole,
into a telephone pole. It's just smack, and like they stop, but like it's like crash within 1 second.
No airbags. They both are just like out of the car.
No, like they crash, and then Arnold's just like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, they're completely fine. No whiplash or anything. So one of my favorite lines in the movie, which is every scene in this movie is one of my favorite lines. But so he pulls Sully out of his car, and he's just like, "Where is she?" And he's just like, "Screw you, Matrix." And so he doesn't even get any information out of him. This is the funny thing, is that he chases Sully down to try to get information and never actually gets anything out of him. Well, he does. Well, he finds like a key for where they're staying, like the hotel.
Yeah, because it's like blazer it's left behind or something.
Yeah. But so he takes Sully, and he's hanging Sully with one arm over a cliffside because they're like in the hills of California, and he's just like, "Come on, Sully, tell me this is my weak arm." Earlier in the movie, which I didn't bring up, when he first meets Sully, and then he's like, "We're gonna have so much fun with your daughter." Arnold has a great line where he's like, "You're a funny guy, Sully. I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last." So he's holding Sully over the cliffside, and he's just like, "You remember how I told you I was going to kill you last?" And he's just like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I lied," and just drops it. Great, fantastic, perfect movie. So they find a key where they're staying, which is like a motel. They go to the motel. God, there's so many good scenes in this movie. They go to the motel where Bill Duke is staying. They get into his room. Bill Duke's room, and he tells her name is Cindy. He tells Cindy to like pretend like she's a call girl, or she's like a girl that's like, doing it with Sully, and then Bill Duke comes in, and he's just like, I immediately don't believe you. Like, so he's just like, open the door. He opens the door. Arnold's hiding behind the door, and a fight breaks out between the two of them. And there's like a ton of there's really great lines in this scene, but they're fighting one another. And the first great line is Bill Duke is just like, "I'm a Green Beret, asshole," and then Arnold's like, he's like, "I eat Green Berets for breakfast, and I'm very hungry right now." But yeah, so they're fighting, and Bill Duke gets thrown through the door to the next motel room where there's, they're shooting porn or whatever in the next room. But Bill Duke pulls out a gun, and he points it at him, and he's like, by this point he's already fired off a handful of shots, and he's just like, "Fuck you, asshole." And he like pulls the trigger, click, and then Arnold looks at him, and he's just like, "Fuck you, asshole." and then they fight, and Bill Duke gets killed again. They don't get any information directly out of him. Like, he's just dead. So they search his car. They find out that where the plane is, where they probably put Arnold's daughter on. And luckily enough, Cindy, she's a stewardess, so she's also trying to get a pilot's license. So she's like taking courses or whatever. So she's like, "Oh, this is the dock where my instructor gets his gas from, so we need to go to this place."
So convenient.
Yeah, so they go to this place. They go to this dock, or like it's like a big like boat facility or something like that. And there's a very Metal Gear Solid scene.
Yeah.
Where he sneaks in. He climbs.
Very espionage-y.
Yeah, he climbs in to the warehouse, but specifically like Metal Gear Solid, so much so that I'm like, I feel like they pulled this from that. But he's like sneaking through the facility, and there's a bunch of guards walking around, and he's crawling under tanks and stuff, which is and trucks. I don't know if it's tanks, maybe it's just like trucks, but that's exactly what happens in like the opening area of or one of the opening areas of Metal Gear Solid.
Now, could it be the other way around, where Metal Gear is just like, Commando's great, let's take that?
That's what I'm saying. Because Metal Gear Solid came out like 8 years later or something like that. Or no, it's probably like 11, 12 years later, 1996, something like that. Because this was 85, I believe. But anyway, and then this is the point in the movie where it's just like, okay, you can go to the bathroom now. because it's like, he doesn't actually fight anybody. He fights like one dude who just gets knocked out, and then he puts him into a cabinet, like a lot of stealth games now. And he's just like looking over a map, and he's just like, they just gave him lines of just like latitude, longitude. He's just drawing lines, and he's like, all right, I think we need to go here. And they're like, okay. So they go to like it's not like a gun shop, it's like a military depot or something. But they drive up and like to this shop, and then it just cuts to him in a bulldozer. Where did the bulldozer come from? I don't know. He's just in a bulldozer now. And instead of him just like picking the lock to get in, he just drives the bulldozer through the door, through the window, and just destroys everything. It's so ridiculous. Goes behind the counter, hits a little button, and it opens up like a back room where it's just covered in weapons. There's a rocket launcher in there. Like, okay, there's a rocket launcher in there. And then the chick walks out to like bring a bunch of stuff out to the car because she's still a part of this, and because she's got to fly him out there. But she she's bringing this out, and there's like, I was looking for like a moment where she figures out that the cops are there, and because she's parked in front, you know.
Yeah.
So, but like she comes out, and then she like puts the bags in the back of the back seat, and then she just kind of looks up for like maybe half a second, at like kind of off in the distance. So I think that's when she saw the cops coming. But anyway, Matrix is just picking out guns, and then the cops show up. They arrest him. They put him in the back of an armored car, and they're driving away. No, there's no like cops following them or anything. It's just the armored car by itself, which was kind of weird. But anyway, so Cindy begins following the armored car in her car and the stolen caddy that they took, which is still stolen, by the way. Like,
from the very beginning.
yeah,
of the movie,
then nobody's looking for this Cadillac that got stolen directly out of the dealership that has no plates. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember asking how many cars get stolen in this.
3.
Three,
Because they steal Sully's car earlier in the movie. After they do the head-on collision. So she follows the armored car, and then she pulls up next to the cops, and then the cops are like, hooker.
Yeah, hooker.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and I was like, she's driving a really nice car, and she's dressed in like like nice clothes and stuff like that. Beautiful woman. But anyway, not to say that a hooker can't be beautiful, but you know, usually in movies at this time, hookers are just like, bleh. So she decides that the best course of action to get him out of the truck is that she shoots a rocket launcher at the truck. Well, she shoots it first, and it shoots backwards.
Yeah, it shoots backwards.
And then, whoops. And then she shoots lands perfectly to make the car just flip on its side. Nobody dies. Maybe the cops die. I don't know.
Arnold doesn't.
No. He just kicks his way out, and he's just like, yeah, I'm fine.
He walks out unharmed.
He's completely fine. And he's like, how did you know how to do that? And she's like, I read the instructions. And I was like, okay, well, did the instructions say what the front side was? Because you really screwed the pooch on that one. Blew up that poor bus stop or whatever it was. So yeah, they get to the plane. They fly off. You know, there's a little gun, a shootout that happens before that. But they fly off to the island where Dan Hedaya, Arius, is hanging out with Bennett. They're expecting a call to be like, okay, well, as soon as Arnold's plane landed that he was supposed to be on, I'm gonna get a call. And so Arnold makes it to the island, and as he's suiting up, essentially, he's
a great little scene, montage scene.
Probably one of the best.
Yeah,
like
he's just
like suit up, like montage loading up scenes of all time. Yeah, he's putting camouflage on himself. He's putting grenades on his belts, pistols. He's got a giant rocket launcher that he carries around by his strap. But then they get the call that Dan Hedaya gets a call that he wasn't on the plane. So, mind you, like we didn't mention this, but they bring Jenny, Alyssa Milano's character, Matrix daughter, to just some room. I was like, why didn't they just put her in like one room there's like 6 doors, like all around?
It's like his mansion that's on his compound. So it's a beautiful room just with no furniture.
Yeah, there's like a fireplace.
And the windows are boarded up.
And then she eventually escapes. So when they get the call saying like he wasn't on the plane, they're like, all right, go kill the daughter. And they go in, but she's already escaped. And then before they see that she escaped, that's when all hell breaks loose. And it's the greatest 30 minutes in a movie ever. And it's just, if you can think of a movie where like the action star is just firing wildly, hitting everybody, not actually moving or anything, and hitting hundreds of people, and nobody can seem to shoot him, that is this movie. I feel like that's where this came from. But yeah, because it's just him running through courtyards, like one-handing assault rifles. Yeah, 2 assault rifles in each hand. He's constantly changing weapons. And there's moments where, he's just standing still, and there's like 15, 20 men coming out in different directions, and he just spraying wildly as like men are falling off of roofs and everything.
Never gets a scratch on him. Just
yeah. There's a point there's a point where there's like this whole thing of like a bunch of guys like jumping on a truck because they're just like, oh, we need to go. They all jump on a truck and they drive around the corner, and then Arnold just like takes out a rocket launcher, spins around, and then blows up the truck. Just like, just a throwaway. Just like, okay. He turns back around and then shoots the rocket launcher at the main gate for the compound and blows that up. Like, there's so many explosions in this part. There's he's like setting claymores around a lot of the buildings.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like the tower in it. He like shoots a guy out of a tower, and that tower explodes like 6 times, like in different shots. Like boom, boom, and then something else will happen, and then it'll cut back, boom. Even though that's not even exploding anymore, but they just need to have it again. So yeah, and so Arnold's blowing everything up. He makes his way into the house. You know, he kills everybody. There's just a bunch of different scenes of him shooting everyone. One in particular, he gets shot, like he gets skimmed. So he goes into a shed where he's like hanging out in the shed.
Yeah, this scene is great.
Yeah, and then everybody surrounds the shed. They shoot everywhere, and then the guy opens the door, and Arnold is like Spider-Manning up on the ceiling, and then stabs him with a pitchfork. And then he jumps down and he grabs a bunch of buzzsaws, like just the saw blades, and he starts like frisbeeing them at people. It cuts off like half of a dude's head. Yeah. Like it sticks into another guy, and then he grabs a machete and an axe. And another guy's coming in. He like hits the dude with an axe in his groin, and then the next guy that walks up, he goes to shoot him. He lifts his arm out. Arnold just grabs his arm, takes the machete, and just chops his arm off.
I was like,
which is probably the most brutal part in the movie. So he makes his way inside after shooting a bunch of people. It's great. It's peak filmmaking. And it gets to the point where he is finally one-on-oneing with Arias. And they're just... And it's like a 25-second scene where just like they shoot back and forth like 3 or 4 times, and then Arnold just like dives out, rolls, and then just shoots him out of a window with a shotgun. And that's the end of Arias. But he's not the main bad guy. Like it's Bennett. Bennett is the actual guy that, because we knew that Arias was gonna die the whole time, but you know. So Arnold makes his way into the house. He hears his daughter. And makes his way down to the basement, and that's where he has his standoff with Bennett. And you know, there's a little shootout. Not really a shootout. Bennett shoots Arnold. Arnold goes down, but Arnold just like, come on, you don't want it to end this way. Like, fight me like a man. You don't want to shoot me. You want to stick this knife in me and twist it.
Yeah.
And then Bennett has this great line delivery, which Bennett is played by Vernon Wells.
Mad Max 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got this great line delivery when Bennett's like, he's like, I don't need the girl, I don't need the gun. He's like, and he takes out a knife and he's like, I'm gonna kill you now.
He just screams.
Yeah, just screeching. And he's like, you know, they're slashing at each other and have this little like man fight. Yeah.
When I was watching this, I was like, I think he's in love with him.
Oh, yeah. I didn't bring up that, like, I'm pretty sure that General Kirby is in love with him, because like he's always giving him like longing looks and stuff like that. But so they're having this knife fight, and then there's a weird moment where like Bennett's like, you're getting old, John. You're getting old. And I'm like, look at the both of you. If you guys are both the same age, bro, you look like you're a used car salesman. And Arnold looks like he's peak man, all right? He looks amazing for his age, which I don't know, he's probably 35 at the point in this movie. But yeah, so they're having this fight, and, you know, it's a big machismo situation. They fight until they roll into another room where they have even more fight. And
that's a good way of putting it.
That's all that happens. They're just fighting, and like they're punching each other, and then there's like the moment where like Arnold is like on his knees, and he's like you're gonna die here now, John. And Arnold's like, bullshit. And then he just flips around and then punches him like 15 times. It's like it's just really stupid fast cuts. And then Bennett takes out a Uzi, and he's about to shoot him, and he's like, I'm gonna put it between your balls. And Arnold just takes like a pipe and just throws it at him, and it goes right through him into into like some compressed like like furnace.
Yeah,
Not
it's
a
like a
furnace.
steam furnace.
Yeah, something like that. And then steam starts pouring out of the other side. And of course, he's got to have one more one-liner. Let off some steam, Bennett. It's great. Great. And that's
Every one-liner was gold. It was just...
It's so good. I think I got most of the important ones. But yeah, and that's kind of the end of the movie. He like walks out and he's just holding his daughter, and they're just like, any chance you come back? Like General Kirby shows up, and he's just like, any chance you come back and work for me? And he's just like, no chance. Well, he sees the woman that he flew there with, Cindy, and then and he runs over there with his daughter, puts his daughter down, and then Cindy's like, oh, she like kisses her on the cheek and stuff like that. And I'm like, they've never met.
They haven't.
She's so excited to just see this random woman. I don't know if you were in the room when I mentioned this, but did you know that woman's Tommy Chong's daughter?
Really?
Yeah, her name is Ray Dawn Chong. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had a daughter that old.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the thing. Well, he's an old guy. I mean, well, that's the thing. And Cheech and Chong, that was in the 70s, and like he was like already like probably 30.
Already like 30s, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and then he flies off. They play some rock song, and that's the end of that.
Credits is the plane flying off, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's Commando.
That's Commando. It is too much, and like it just never stops. Like it utilizes its time so well, but then at the same time.